Hello everybody and welcome to an anime movie review. I do these occasionally, ain't that great? So, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I went to see Promare, which I guess is how you pronounce it, the Studio Trigger movie. I thought it was Promare, had no idea how to pronounce it. I think it's Promare. If that's wrong, don't blame me, blame them. They didn't make it clear. And by that, didn't make it clear, I mean I didn't look it up, so who knows. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit late, but UK cinemas don't get anime movies that often, so this was a one-day thing. So the fact that it was there, that's good. For the most part, I'll just say, did I enjoy the movie or not? Yeah, I bloody did enjoy it. It was hype. That's a good word for it. It was hype. There are some negatives that we got into, but for the most part, I had a great old time, positive time. The negatives, probably they might feel a bit nitpicky, and honestly they are. I just have to think of some things to put there. Overall though, I had a really good time, so there is that. It might have also helped the fact that, I was in a cinema, everyone there was having a good time, there was laughing, there was clapping. It was good stuff. It probably added to my experience of it. So if you watch it by yourself, you might be more inclined to pick out the bad things than I was. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, I'm not going to spoil the movie. Just so you know, if I need to talk about anything, in fact, there is some stuff slightly spoilerish I will talk about. I'll do that at the end. I'll say here's where spoilers start, and then you can not watch that part if you don't want to be spoiled. So yeah, first part, let's talk about the elephant. It's a anime about firefighters. So basically, in this world, people get fire powers, and they go on fire and they like kill people. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. That does sound like Fire Force. Oh no, yeah, that's very similar, and I'll agree. The opening bit of this movie had me thinking this is just going to be Fire Force. It's not just Fire Force, okay? It's like they have like a similar starting point. They go in two different directions. So let's just put the kibosh on that right now. They are very different, very different shows. Shows, a movie, anime. You know what I mean? They're very different things. I'm gonna say, I'm looking at my notes because there's a lot of it. I'm gonna make a bold claim, very bold claim. Best animation all year was in this movie. That's a very bold claim, but when you look at what's going on and how it's all linking together, I think it might have been the best animation all year. There are other things that compete with it, and also it's a movie, so you can't really put it against TV shows, but I'm thinking if we take everything into consideration, the best animation in any anime all year, so that's a massive plus for it. Another plus, the soundtrack really fit what was going on. Like it was hype. As I said, this movie was very hype. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, extremely hype. I love what they did with the it looks unique, the way it's colored, the way it's done. It felt like it had the Studio Trigger charm to it. I love Kill la Kill. I love okay, no, I don't love the other one, but yeah, love Kill la Kill. I thought Kisniver was alright, but could have done with being longer. Gurren Lagann, love that as well. So yeah, they've got this charm to them. Maybe not Kisniver, but the other two certainly. And this definitely has that similar charm. Like it, after bootleg Evangelion, it's that harsh. Frank's wasn't that bad, but after Frank's, that didn't really have any charm for me. There wasn't really much there. And for Trigger's got a certain something, and Frank's didn't really have it. Promare definitely had that something that was missing from Frank's, I thought. Charm-wise, in terms of plot, well, I mean, we'll get to the plot in just a little bit. I'm gonna go positives first, then we'll go a bit more negative. I guess I'll mention this now. After the movie finished, everyone in the cinema or theatre, if I don't know, cinema is what we call it. Everyone in the cinema stood up and clapped. There was nobody there, no like directors or nothing. Everyone just clapped for the movie, and that's the first time I've ever had that happen in this cinema, so that was pretty cool moment. As I said, I might be letting my experience, blind my critic's eye, but it's more fun this way, isn't it? There is a lot. I've said the soundtrack. Yeah, okay. We'll just the characters. We'll go into that. That's a good place to go into. The characters are serviceable. You know, I don't think anyone came out of this movie thinking, "Oh man, they're a really deep character and there's a lot to them." You know, the deepest character is probably Leo, and even then, it's not like you're not. This isn't a multiple layers. You know, deeply built thing, and that's fine. The movie's like 2 hours long. It was never going to get as much. That's maybe one criticism that I would say. Maybe it feels weird, but it felt like they tried to, like structure-wise, they put a whole trigger anime into a 2 hour movie, and there's a part later on where there's definitely it's like the trigger change point, if you know what I mean, where like it's like, hey, it's been fun, and now it's like and now there's something massive plot twist that's happened, and it goes in a weird direction that no one saw coming. Yeah, there's one of them. I'm not gonna talk about it in this part. In a little bit, I will mention it, but it had me. I literally just went, oh yeah, Trigger. I forgot. It's Studio Trigger. They're doing their thing. Honestly, how I describe the movie. I'll go back to the characters. I didn't really mention them. The characters are serviceable. Yeah, as I said, Leo's probably the most deep and interesting. A lot of the side characters they don't really get. I mean, they're not developed. They're just there. You know what I mean? Which, we'll compare it to Fire Force because I think that's the most direct comparison. Fire Force doesn't really develop its characters either, most of them. So, but it's bad comparison. I like the designs. I'll say that about the characters. I like their designs. They stand out. That's a good way of putting it. So even though there's not much to them, you can still say you're that person. Here's your trait. You're the smart one. You're the big one. It's good like that. I guess we'll go into more negative or could be seen as negative things. So the plot is it's standard, and then it's Trigger. And if you don't know what that means, I mean, I'll talk about it in the later bit, but it's just normal. You got your things set up, and then a trigger point happens, which there's a funny name for it, and it's just blah, 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 blah. It goes like that. And I know it's a terrible description, but it's like plot's going well, and then it's just going to veer off course, and it'll either be a good thing or a bad thing, and it'll just be like, oh, didn't see that coming. But yeah, in this case, I sort of did see it coming, even though I forgot it was Trigger. In hindsight, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, you expect it at this point, and yeah, it still happens, and all that. And there's, I guess, another point to mention. There is very rarely a break in the action, if you will. The last section, it's quite a while. It's very long, and it's just a big old fight scene. There's not really any. I mean, there is plot happening, but it is in the fight. It's the old we're talking while we're fighting thing, and the animation and everything is really, really good. So that's it was hype and everything. But yeah, it's pretty non-stop fight scene. You're not going to get. It's not fight scene, 10 minutes of dialogue, 20 minutes dialogue, another fight scene. It's like a solid 20 to 30, maybe more minutes of constant fighting, which sounds like it might be pretty negative, but I had a really good time watching it and a good fun experience. But just be warned, I guess, this isn't a deep movie that's gonna leave you thinking. It is a hype. It's an explosion of fun and hype, but it's not something deep like Your Name or Silent Voice that's gonna leave you thinking about the movie. It's like, oh man, that was how the characters interact with that. It's not that. It is a hype fest, absolutely, and I'm not going to deny that. It's a good hype fest. CG is a thing I think we should mention. There's a lot of it. Like, I'm not going to lie to you and say that it didn't bother me at points, but for the most part, it worked for me. It was never. Well, the thing about the CG is when it was CG, it was all CG, if you know what I mean. And some people I know hate CG in anime at all. Like, every time they say like, ugh, CG. But here I think it was done fairly well. It didn't mesh too much with everything. Not mesh. That's the wrong word. The opposite of mesh. You know what I mean? Didn't ruin it for me. Like, I think I definitely prefer the 2D drawn, typical anime, but the CG stuff, because it's all mechs and that, wasn't too big of a deal. I can't think of anything else to say. There was references in it, I perceived them as references to other Trigger things like Kill the Kill, Franks, the other one, Gurren Lagann. Like, I'm not sure if they actually were references, but they gotta be, right? They've gotta be. If you saw the movie, you know what I was on about. Like well, I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, there's gotta be things. I think they were. I could be completely wrong though. There could be me seeing things where there's nothing there, or me wanting to see things. Okay, let's pause. If you haven't seen it, make your decision based off what I've said. Basically, the short of it is, the plot's there, but it's not super deep and complex. And what's the other part? Very hypey and actiony. So if you like, very well animated as well. Like, if nothing else, you can see the animation, be like, yeah, that's really well done. The animation. Like, if you look at the animation, like, nah, it's crap. I don't know what to tell you. I think you're wrong. But yeah. So there's where you're at. You got to balance. Story's a bit. It's fine, but it's whatever. I guess this should be a negative thing as well, but slight spoilers. So I guess I'll go into that now. Okay. So first thing, there's a romance subplot put in very early on between the main character Gallo and the girl whose name I don't remember because she's a side character. Aina, is that her name? Like, it's the part where on the lake. If you've seen it, it's the part where they're on the lake. Yeah, that it goes nowhere is what I'm gonna say. They have that. It's literally that one moment basically, and then nothing. And I'm not saying it. Why put it there at all is really what I'm thinking. I don't particularly care one way or the other, but it felt weird. It felt weird that they put it there and then barely mentioned it ever again. We just she likes him, so she wants to get him, help him out, and that's basically it. It doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that is the best way of putting it. It does not go anywhere, and yeah, maybe 2 hours they would have to put that in as well as everything else going on, and have it felt not forced. Would have been hard, but then I would say, yeah, just don't put anything like that in at all. That's all I really got to say on that. Second spoiler thing, and the big spoiler thing, and this is probably gonna be the last point of the video, is the plot twist. If you watch, it's the trigger point, the trigger plot twist. So it comes the hell out of nowhere. It's aliens. This is the plot twist. If you've not seen the movie and you're still here, I warned you. It's aliens, which that's fine. And then they have a robot that's strong enough to stop the bad guy. And it is straight. I was watching it. I was like, huh, that's weird. It's just a straight Deus Ex Machina out of nowhere. And then they reference it. They're like, it's called Deus Ex Machina. That got a big laugh out of the cinema. And I was like, okay, just because they've referenced it, and it is funny that they've referenced it, and this goes back in what more that I was on about on it earlier. If you take this any seriously at all, you might not enjoy it so much. You've got to go in knowing it's a comedy action show, all right? And the comedy part is absolutely a focus. It's not just slapped in just to every so often just try and be funny. It's focused on. The Deus Ex Machina bit is perhaps the most aware part of that, because they called it Deus Ex Machina. They know what it is. You know what it is. And it basically leads into the final act, the big old final fight. And there's just before that, there's a whole. It's very quick exposition, like aliens, interdimensional travel, core of the Earth. Yeah, just out of nowhere. So it is worth mentioning. Personally, didn't bother me that much, but it is worth mentioning just because they referenced it. Some people are still gonna be mad about it, and I think, looking at it as a comedy, I think it worked. But if you look at it as anything other than that, it's lazy, and it feels like it felt like, as I said, Trigger had they took their regular 24 episodes or whatever, thing, and then like they got the same thing, and then they got 2 hours. So like at the 24 episode, like say episode 16, this is where the trigger point is, and we'll put that to around the hour 20 mark. Is what it felt like. So it did feel like they were just putting everything in there. Maybe with more, a longer run time. Maybe it was a series. It could have fleshed out the plot a lot more. It has some interesting ideas as well. Like how I'm in the spoiled part. I can say whatever I want. Like the Burnish are like, yeah, we're people too. Yeah, could have gone way more on that. But yeah, 2 hour runtime didn't. You couldn't fill in too much. But I am nitpicking at this point. I said very clearly I liked this movie. I really liked it. I had a good old time, good day out. But yeah, it does have. It's not perfect, and there's. I don't think I've ever seen an anime or movie that I would consider perfect. So yeah, but it was a solid time. But if you, I think the end. Well, to final statement. Great animation, plot's okay. Don't think about it too hard. Like it's not a movie for you to think all the deep, like an artsy movie. It's artsy in the sense like, damn, they look pretty, but not in a, um, deep thinking kind of way. That's I think the best way I can put out. Hopefully, I've done the right job of summing it up and everything. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching this movie review. I don't do these too often because, quite frankly, the UK doesn't get anime movies that often. I will see you in another episode of whatever. I've bollocks my own outro. Subscribe if you've enjoyed it. There's loads of other anime reviews on the channel as well. Weekly anime reviews of the stuff coming out in the seasons. Series reviews occasionally. Movie reviews as well. I will see you in whatever the hell you decide to watch next. And bye, guys.